everyone, on this episode of Coding with Kate, we are going to be talking about the topic of studying. The only reason we're talking about this is because I received a message from one of the viewers, and they are currently in a coding program and prepping for their certification exam, and they asked me what do I do to study and to prep for those sorts of things. And I have to say I'm an unconventional studier because I am a visual and kinesthetic learner, meaning I learn with my eyes, seeing things, and also doing things with my hands. And because of this, I have to modify how I study to make sure I learn the information on a deeper level so I'm able to recall it quicker, especially when I sit down for any type of test or exam. So some of the things that I do to study is to take the information and put them into a type of game or activity. And you have seen two of those in my previous videos. I'll have a link in the description where I have the messy pile of words and then I have to put them in the correct order or put them into whatever type of chart, organizational chart. And doing that, it's kinesthetic. I'm actively moving my hands and putting things together, but I'm also putting the information into a shape or in a specific type of organization that I'm able to visually remember, which is very helpful for me. So I suggest doing that with any information that you have, is especially with anatomy and physiology, medical terms, things like that, where you have terms information that you can put into a chart, or you can match words together, or you can take the steps of a process and put them in order, etc. All of those sorts of things are very good for kinesthetic learners and also visual learners, and that is what I did in anatomy and physiology. Now for right now that I'm already well into my coding program, a lot of what I do is going through all of the practice exercises that are in my book, and there's also books with just lists and lists of procedures, etc., and you go through them all, and it covers diagnosis coding, procedural coding, CPT, all that good stuff. Also, on a daily basis, if I see anything medical, I try to figure it out and apply it to coding. So if I see a commercial that brings up some medical procedure, I'm going to try and figure out how to code it. Or if I see someone or hear someone talking about a diagnosis, I'm going to go into the ICD-10-CM codebook and I'm going to try and find that diagnosis. And especially with working at the hospital and medical records, I come across all sorts of medical terms, procedures, anything clinical, and I, in my mind, am trying to figure out how do I code it in diagnosis coding? How do I code it in procedural coding? What do these medical terms mean? I immerse myself as much as I can in the medical and clinical information, because the more I'm around it, the more I will make internal connections from that information to what I've been learning, and that is going to help me when I get to the exam, because I'll be able to recall it much quicker because I've made so many connections between the information. And I'm able to see all of these op reports and other clinical forms like diagnostic cardiology and all of those forms, and I take the time to figure out what does it mean. How did they get that information? What machines did they use? What does that process look like? What does all of this mean? How do they interpret it? I'm trying to figure it all out because it's going to help me understand it. I just can't sit there and read a book and read all this text that describes a lot of this stuff. That's not going to help me. I have to see the process happening, or I have to go through and do a ton of deep analysis on it for me to actually understand it if I don't have access to seeing the process happening. So that's what I do. So as a summary of this, with medical terms and anything else that has vocabulary terms, etc., do matching games with the terms and then all the definitions. You can also do diagrams for processes or organizational charts, etc. You can also use models, if we're talking about anatomy and physiology, models of the processes. So you can actually work out in 3D how the process works. Immersing yourself in all of this information. Every time you hear a medical term on the radio, on the TV, or people talking, go and try to find it in whatever code book it aligns with. Diagnosis, PCS, CPT. Also, I highly suggest to immerse yourself in this information. On Twitter, on Facebook, go and find any medical or clinical journals and follow them. They will post all of their different clinical studies or research studies on whatever medical healthcare information they cover, and you will see all of those different titles come up on your feed, and even if you don't want to look at them, try and figure out what the title means. Even if it's so complex, break it down word by word. What does this word mean? What does this mean? What does this mean when we put it all together? Just doing those exercises and getting yourself familiar with all of these words is going to help you when you actually get to the exam. Believe it or not, it will, because your brain will already be making connections from those words with what you've already learned in previous courses and even in your coding exercises. It will help. So really take the time to immerse yourself in medical and clinical terms and topics so you're around it every day, and try and figure out what it means and how does it connect to coding. And maybe you'll find when you start coding, what you read in an article will actually be helpful for you to understand, what does this procedure mean? What does this diagnosis mean? It will be so helpful. And I think that covers it as far as studying goes. If you have any questions, post them in the comments below and I will get back to you and go in depth more on any of this that I've been speaking about. You can also comment below with any tips or activities or things that you do to study and why it's helpful, and we'll have a discussion about it. You can like this video if you enjoyed the topic. I know I did, and I can't wait to talk more about it. And you can also subscribe to this channel if you want more information on ICD-10-CM, ICD-10-PCS, and CPT. You will get all the notifications on all the videos that I post, so you're always in the know. And I will see y'all later. Bye!